He came, he saw, he conquered. Nfon V E Mukete, rest in peace. Plus, today's edition of our program, the major national dialogue was convened by Cameroon's President Paul Biya to solve the Anglophone crisis and some crises plaguing Cameroon. Within the major national dialogue, there was a proposal that decentralization should be rebranded from when it was noted as decentralization. It was rebranded into accelerated decentralization, and under that, the regional council was proposed, and the regional council election were organized within the different municipalities. Voters went to the poll to cast their ballot for the regional councillors with the mind that it will help to accelerate the accelerated decentralization proposed by Cameroon's government in resolving the conflict within the northwest and the southwest region of the nation, and also other conflict that's plaguing Cameroon within the west, the east, and of course the center region. With all this in mind, the regional councillors celebrated their victory, and we saw homecoming in some constituencies and localities, though many were still skeptical that it will not resolve the ongoing Anglophone crisis. We are yet to see the effectiveness of the regional councillors. As they were elected, they are nowhere to be found, and little is being said about the regional councillors. They have not had their first ordinary session, and many Cameroonians are worried. Some are posing the question, are they waiting for firm instruction from the head of state to convene their first ordinary session? This is House of Commons with me, Tah Mai Javis. You're welcome back, and it maybe not a happy Sunday because of the issues plaguing Cameroon, from Jeve Mendoze to, of course, Senator Nfon V E Mukete and others who have lost their lives in the course of the week. But however the case is, as a bona fide Catholic, which I am, we are told that we celebrate everything that happens. It happens for good to those that love God. Again, I will say happy Sunday to all those of you who are watching us on House of Commons. Today's edition, we are discussing the legacy of Nfon V E Mukete, which is our first topic, and then second topic, we shall be diving straight into the regional councillors who are yet to have their first ordinary session, and equally we shall look at the Anglophone crisis. Is it not time for us to bury our differences and focus on what unites us more than what divides us, as the case may be? It is often said in history that until the lion produces its own historian, the story of the hunt shall always be told to glorify the hunter. And today's edition, as we dive straight, let me introduce to you my guest with whom we are going to discuss on today's edition of the program. Joining us here in the studio is Senior Barrister Ngongi. Senior Barrister Ngongi, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Javis. I really do appreciate you having me here.
A happy Sunday to you.
And a happy Sunday to all the listeners too.
You left Boya this morning. How was the town?
Fairly quiet. Sunday is a very particular day in Boya. When I left Boya, people were still in church, so there was very little traffic. So that's why I got here in fairly good time. Everything is quiet so far. We thank God.
Thank you very much, Senior Barrister. Here, equally, we have another Senior Barrister, Barrister Ekome Limen. Sorry for the pronunciation of the name. I've been struggling to look at this name since. Sorry.
The name is Nkamwah Limen.
Nkamwah Limen. Thank you for joining us. You are from the Nkamwah Limen law firm, Douala, and of course, you are a senior lecturer in the University of Boya.
Still Ross.
Okay.
I am Nkamwah Limen. I'm a lawyer in Douala. My colleague sitting in front of me is a senior advocate, senior barrister. I'm not a senior barrister. I'm a barrister and a PhD researcher of the University of Boya. I'm not a lecturer.
Okay.
You'll soon be one.
soon be one, of course.
About to.
Yeah.
I'll begin with you, senior barrister. I want us to look at Nfon V E Mukete, 103. First, let's look at the role he played in Cameroon's history.
Many people may not know this, but Nfon V E Mukete, may his soul rest in peace, touched my life on very, very personal levels. In the early 80s, as a young lawyer, 2 or 3 years out of law school, he called for me and employed me as a board secretary and legal advisor of CDC. I worked directly under him. So I interacted on a daily basis with him. And during this period, I came to know this man, whom I'd known as a child because his children are my friends, but from a distance. So I had this rare privilege to work on a daily basis with the former chairman of CDC. At that time, CDC was really a CDC. And I learned a lot. As I was coming over here this morning, I kind of had reminiscences about my experience with Nfon Mukete. I'll give you one or two examples because that is his legacy. At the time he called for me, I was working at the National Assembly as a legal advisor. And then I got a message, somebody brought me a message that Chief Mukete wanted to see me. So I drove down to Bota and I met him. He told me he wanted me to work with him as a board secretary. Now, of course, secretary here is not the typist type of secretary. Board secretaries are usually lawyers or executive position. And I told him to give me just a few days to think about it. So I went back to him and I thought about it. And I thought, there's no other excuse I can find but work for a corporation like CDC, which has a very strong part in our history as FACO. That's a wonderful opportunity to get to know this history of CDC. So I did not think much longer, and I told him I would take the job. Then it came down to my contract. He had proposed, based upon my qualifications, that I should be put on category 11. But the people in the management of CDC thought I was too young to be in category 11. So I said, well, then I will just go back. I'll not take the job. He said, no. I will work out something. And this is where I learned his ability to seek compromise and solve problems. So what he did is, 1 or 2 days later, he called me that he has a proposal which he thinks I will accept. That he's going to propose that I should be put on category 10, H, or G, which was equivalent to the category 11. The salary was the same, except that I didn't have the title of being category 11. And he said, well, this is a win-win situation. I will get the salary, I will not get the category 11, and he will get me to work with him. He wanted me to work with him. I could not argue with such logic, so I accepted it. One of the things that showed me his ability to compromise was the uncanny way in which he worked with management to find a solution which suited management and also suited his need to have me work with him. Second one, now I'm employed. I was assigned a building at the entrance of CDC, opposite where you had the cold store at that time. Well, the same management now opposed my entering that building. They said I was too young to occupy such a big house. Well, Chief Mukete told them, this young man is maybe young, but his qualifications allow him to occupy this building. Management refused. Again, Chief Mukete stepped in with compromise. There was a little chalet, there are a number of chalets in CDC Bota, which were designed for bachelors. So he proposed that they should refurbish that chalet for me, and I take it instead of fighting over that house, which I really did not need because I was alone. So I was checked into Miramar Hotel for 2 months, and during that 2 months, CDC paid for my hotel and meals and everything, and they totally refurbished the little chalet one, which became a very comfortable home for me eventually. This was a wonderful experience for me because if you had looked at it from the perspective of me just wanting to have my rights, probably I would not have taken the job. I would not have benefited from the experience I benefited from him personally as an individual and from working as a board secretary and legal advisor of CDC at such a very young age. There are many other things I'll probably talk about, but I think my colleague may have something to say to you.
Before I move to him, I want to get your own opinion.
Yes.
During the period you worked with him, what
Yes.
was his own idea about the Anglophone community, looking at the fact that he has served within the Eastern Regional House of Assembly and came back, and looking at the period where we had the reunification and from the 1972 referendum, we started witnessing agitation from returning back to two-state federation. What was running through his mind?
Yeah. First of all, Javis, I must let you know that in those early 80s, young as we were, we're not as politically conscious as we are today. So most of our concerns at that time were about how to get a job and how to live. But I will tell you this. You're talking about a crisis. Working with Chief Mukete, I also saw how we ourselves, amongst ourselves, Anglophones, were our own problems. The two stories I told you just now were caused by our own people who did not want to see young people grow. It was not caused by a Francophone in there. It was caused by our own people, some of our own tribes people from Flacco also. So that is one case. But I know one thing, that he was very concerned about the quality of life of workers in CDC. I remember he gave me a specific assignment to go around all the plantations, or as many plantations as I could, and make a report about how people were living in those plantations and how we could get the CNPS, the Social Insurance Company, to get involved in improving the quality of the lives of these workers. I think that thing took me more than 3 weeks going around the plantations, and I learned a lot. I saw the abysmal conditions under which people were living. And when I came to him with my preliminary report, he was so overwhelmed by the reality that he says, Mr. Ngongi, I don't think this is something we can handle right away, but we shall have to look at it eventually. This is something that had to involve also management. Policies of the company had to be changed. The board of directors had to make decisions about how to change the working conditions of our workers. Let me tell you, when CDC was created in 1947, these camp buildings that were built, they were built for single family workers. People came from East Cameroon, Bamenda province, Nigeria, Fernandopo. They came alone to work on the plantations. In the 80s, you had people living in one room with 2 wives and 8 children. I saw it with my own eyes. I remember I went to Kompina, and I saw people were drinking dirty water from the stream, colored dirty water, and there was an outbreak of cholera around that same time. That was the condition in which people were living. So we had not evolved in changing the quality of lives of our own citizens, but we had claimed to be independent. And Chief Mukete was very worried about this. There are many other examples that I could give about my personal interaction with him and how he reacted to injustice. He was a very disciplined person. I remember most of the time I wake up in the morning, his house was next to his office. Mine was about 2 minutes away. So I would just walk over, go to his house first, get my instructions for the day, and go to my office. Every time I arrived there around 7 o'clock, 7:15, that's when he was having his breakfast. This is his breakfast. He had a banana, he had yogurt, he had a glass of pure, fresh fruit juice. He ate sparingly but healthily. Surprised that he lived up to 103 years. It was a result of the kind of discipline he exercised himself. And in the 80s, he was in the 60s. He was already in the 60s. Strong, alert, and active. Another thing I noticed about from Mukete was that he was an impatient man. Impatient not in a negative way. He did not like to waste time. He was impatient with people who wasted his time. He was impatient with people who delayed him. He always liked to keep time, and he did not want to have his time wasted. At that time, he had a sense of his own mortality already. He had also a sense of the value of time and how short we lived on this earth. So he wanted to do the most he could while he was alive. Thank God, God added him another 40 years since the time I worked with him in 1980, 81, till now when he died. So God granted him so much extra time to accomplish a lot more things. Of course, one of the things all of us noticed was his demonstration at the Senate.
Yes.
Where he looked around and told himself, what legacy am I going to leave behind if I don't tell the truth to power? And he told truth to power. If there's anything that invigorated me and gave me a sense of purpose, that's one of them. What I saw this 100-year-old man stand up there with his walking stick and admonish the government with the authority that comes from his age, from his experience, from his beliefs, from his convictions, and from his role as a leader of the people. He was talking there not for himself. He was talking there for the community he led, not just the Bafo people, but for all of us Anglophones.
Okay. Barrister Nkamwah Limen, let me come to you. For Mukete is not just a household name in Cameroon, but when we look at the history of the British in terms of Nigeria and Cameroon, I'm sure he made a very significant stride in the Eastern Regional House of Assembly. And when we look at all of these, what comes to your mind when you heard he was dead and looking at the history of Anglophones as far as this conflict is concerned. He's leaving, but the conflict is still on. He fought hard, and what comes to your mind?
Well, let me greet your televiewers and my senior colleague who had the privilege of being so close to this great man. And I've learned through his declarations what kind of person he was actually, because hearing from somebody who lived with him and what you read or hear is very different. But what I know about him is that he was a good man. And there is nobody in Cameroon who, when you call that name, will not ring a bell to him. Yeah. And as my senior said, I was extremely moved when he stood in the House of Senate and made the pronouncements that he did. Yeah. Coming from the ruling, as a member, a senator from the ruling government, yes, the ruling party, it was very, very indicative that he loved and actually wanted peace for the Anglophones. And today he's no more, and unfortunately he's leaving us the way he would not want to have left, because the problem is still there. Anglophones are still dying. Yeah. And I think for his memory, this government and the people should come into a kind of consensus, kind of agreement to see that we stop what is going on in Northwest and Southwest regions.
Because we just when the wave of Christian Cardinal Tumi, just last week and this week we have Nfon V E Mukete, and looking at this aspect, do you feel like there is that hope at the horizon, or the light is dying down? Because these were people who were looking at the peaceful solution, advocating for the right from a peaceful angle.
Well, I just think it was a holy week, and good people went with Christ. Yeah. That's why I look at it. They're not being there, we have other people who can equally spearhead. If he's not there and people like senior counsel is there with what he inherited from him, they can still push forward. And I think in most of his interviews he's doing same. So I think his legacy is still alive. So
you're very right.
They just went with Christ.
Yes.
I remember before coming to senior barrister, yesterday when the news came out, there was kind of still a tussle. We got people saying that no, the news was supposed to be aired by the traditional council and not by the media. As we heard, the media came out and announced the death. I think there is that issue where maybe the public is supposed to needs to be sensitized as to how you announce the death of prominent personalities, because when we look at countries like UK, family members are the ones that break that, even if the person is dead. But the family members, like Michael Jackson died, it was the family that came out, even though it was rumored.
Well, you see, our society is not as developed like the society, the Europe, as you mentioned, and you should not forget that Chief Mukete was a public figure. And in Cameroon, with the growth of social media, we discovered that first informant gives out the message. Yeah. So anybody who comes first with an information seems to give the information. Yeah. And to me, I think it's not who gives out the information that is important. It's how credible, how truthful that information is.
But there's this nuance. Somebody will say whoever gives out that information without the family actually acknowledging it can be sued.
Personally, I don't agree to that. I don't agree to that. Once the information is true, I don't see what offense you bring against that person.
Yesterday I heard, I think a reporter in Kumba who was on the ground stated that there's a possibility where the family could say yes, at the point in time it was announced he was not dead.
Look, let us look. First of all, what would be the rationale, what would be the raison d'etre to bring such an action? He's dead. And if somebody brought the information, if the information was false, we can say that maybe he defamed or something like that. I don't know. But or spreading of false rumors. Yes, you could bring it. But once the information is true, I don't see an action that could be brought against such a person. Don't forget that you have the right to speech. You have the right to talk. And so if this person saw what he said and made those pronouncements, I don't think they can bring an action against him.
Okay, I'll come back to you.
And you should not forget that he was a man of the people too. He does not belong to his family. He belongs to all of us Cameroonians.
Okay, Senior Barrister Ngongi, a lot has been said about Nfon V E Mukete. People, when I read that the social media are saying that he at one point in time, he changed his views from the Anglophone cause. That he stated that there was no link between the Northwest and the Southwest, so he wanted just for a four-state federation. But you have worked with him closely. In the line of when you work with him, what were the kind of vision? What was the vision he had for the Anglophone community?
Like I said earlier, Javis, in the 1980s, the activism that we are seeing today was not as alive as it is today. There was not a lot of talk about this Anglophone problem in this way. My personal interaction with him also did not have political connotations. I know we talked about issues of justice, social justice, and so on, but we never got to talk. And he, at that time, he also was really reserved. He was not involved in politics. When he came back from Nigeria and was made chairman of CDC, one of the things he consciously did, and I don't know whether that was a condition for him being a chairman, was that he did not get involved in politics. And I got confirmation from this from one of his sons, who is my very good friend, that he deliberately stayed away from political discourse. But one of the things that came out very clearly was that he cared about justice. At a personal level, at an individual level, at a community level, and certainly at a national level. I'll give you another example. We had a board meeting in CDC. We were all at the board meeting and invited me to come and sit by his side. And the other board members came in. One of the first things that struck me was out of the 8 or 9 board members, there was only one Anglophone at that time. Late Fred Ngomba Eko. He was at that time Secretary General at the Ministry of Labor. That was one of our earlier Procureur Generals or Attorney Generals in West Cameroon. That was the only Anglophone board member. All the others were Francophones. And I think from Mukete wanted me to get that experience. But let me tell you what happened. After a couple of minutes of discussions and things, one of the Francophones says, "Le jeune homme là, qu'est-ce qu'il fait là?" From Mukete said, "That's my secretary." I brought him in. Oh, so no, il ne doit pas être là. They did not want people to see what was happening. They had already started putting into place a system to dismantle CDC. We never knew about it. But I know very well that Mukete wanted me, his child, to have that experience and see how our corporation was being managed by non-Anglophones, non-FACO people, non-Southwesterners. I saw it firsthand. So at that time, when the activism that we are seeing today had not reached this level, people still don't want us to see what was happening. I was a board secretary. I had the right to be in that room. I had to make records of it. They didn't want it. They wanted it to be a secret society kind of thing. That taught me a lot of lessons. And I remember after the board meeting, he came to me. Mr. Ngongi, he always called me, "Mr. Ngongi, I'm sorry about what happened. I'm very sorry." He apologized to me. One of the things I learned from this great man, this my pa, was his level of humility. This was a man who had been a minister in Nigeria before he came to Cameroon as a chairman of a corporation. Okay? This is me. I come down to the level of his third child, because his third child is my age mate and classmate. But he insisted on treating me with the respect you give a colleague. You understand? He could have come, Ekome. No. He insisted till when I saw him last month in Boya in the church, he always addressed me, Mr. Ngongi, with a lot of respect and warmth. Now, can you see that in many of our ministers in this country today? I was in Yaoundé the other day. I entered the office of a colleague who is a judge, just to greet him. Courtesy call. But a lot of these people get so full of themselves in their offices. I had my mask on, of course. I don't know whether he knew who I was, but I sent him my card. But the rudeness with which he addressed me, I told him I'm leaving. I cannot stay here. But after a while, I came back and said, I will stay just so that we can clarify this issue. At the end of our 30 or 40 minutes together, we apologized to each other. He, for his rashness, because he thought he was protecting himself from COVID. And me, I said, well, probably I shouldn't have reacted so quickly and give him a chance to explain why he treated me that way. But that is not the symptom. It's the real way most of our so-called ministers act in this country. Once you're in a position, you think you're superior to other people, and you can talk to them anyhow. You know, this man, this Pa who just died, Pa Mukete, who had been a minister in the 50s before I was born, was still talking to me, his child, as if he was talking to his equal. He's a contemporary. He treated me with such respect. And that's how he treated many other people I know who interacted with him. We have a lot of things to learn from people like this. A lot of things. Number one, humility. The bigger you get, the more humble you should become.
Yes.
So you have nothing to prove to people anymore.
That's true.
But it's the contrary when we look at some of our elites.
Of course, that is the problem we have. That is the problem we have. I remember I went to one minister's office to see him, and they kept us waiting for about 3.5 hours, only for the secretary to come and tell us that, the minister, I said, why didn't you tell us 3.5 hours ago? Would have gone. But this level of discourtesy is one of the things that is killing our society today. We lack civility towards each other. And that man, this pa who just died, this our father, if there's any one lesson we can learn from him, is that civility that he carried himself with. And tolerance. And the sense of self and dignity with which he carried. Although he was polite and civil, when you walked, you saw a man who was comfortable with himself, who knew himself. He carried himself with so much dignity and aplomb that there's no way you could be with Nfon Mukete and not acknowledge his presence.
Yep.
Okay.
There's no way.
Barrister Nkamwah Limen, you've listened to Senior Barrister Ngongi. Do you interact with lots of personalities, especially elite, and do you see that sense of humility and you believe? Because Senior Barrister Ngongi said from when he was treated in CDC, he noticed that the problem of Anglophones are Anglophones, because his testimony speaks volume that given a job, people tell you, no, you're young for this position, but the qualification states that you're supposed to occupy that position, and which is still plaguing our society today.
Well, I listened very keenly to my senior colleague, and believe me, it's very interesting listening to him talk and learning a lot from the past. You see, I'm happy that he's a humble person. I know him as a humble person equally, and I'm happy that Nfon Mukete transmitted that humility to his children.
Yeah.
The ones I know
Yes.
are very humble people.
Yes.
I fellowship with one in Presbyterian Church, Bonamusadi here,
Yeah.
and he's a very humble person. And I think those are the kind of legacy he left behind.
Yes.
Now, coming to humility, as he rightly said, when you grow, you should learn to be humble. And you know, when I was in the student university, I had a problem with a lecturer, which led to a disciplinary committee kind of thing, and I went and met the then Vice Chancellor, Titanji,
Yes.
Professor Titanji, that I respect a lot,
Yes.
and who knew me as a person. And when I explained the things to what happened to him, he said, "You know what?" He said, "No." He said, I always feel sorry that the lecturer, you and the lecturer are in this position, but that the lecturer should have known that you don't fight children.
Yeah.
You don't fight." And he told me this story that I keep telling people about the leper and the cricket.
Yeah.
That the cricket was making noise so much, and the leper, angry, started chasing the cricket, and every animal in the bush, they were looking. And so when the cricket rushed into that hole, he came so angry and sent his finger to, and then he had a sprain. You understand? And could not still get the cricket and started limping and going, and everybody and everybody was laughing. All the animals, they were laughing.
Yes.
So it pays to be humble. And I'll divide that problem into two categories. To be very honest with you, I practice here in the civil law jurisdiction, the French Cameroon, and humility is not part of the system.
No.
You greet somebody, you walk like this and greet somebody.
He doesn't answer.
He doesn't answer.
Yes. He thinks you need something from him.
Yes, he doesn't even look at you.
Yeah.
That is the bad way in which they were brought up. Whereas in our own side, you can park your car and ask somebody to guide you through, and the person will say, "No, let me just enter and take you to where you're going through." You see, so we have first of all that. Then, where we actually have another problem is between the Northwest and the Southwesterners.
Yes.
And I'm just happy that there are elites in this place, like my senior colleague, who looks at Anglophones as Anglophones without any discrimination. I think if all of us, we tend to look at ourselves as one people, it's going to help us a lot.
Yes.
Because, as he rightly said, we have instances that Anglophones are the problems to Anglophones. And you know, when for the very first time, they appointed an Anglophone as a Minister of Territorial Administration, as it is. I told myself this was another setup to use an Anglophone against Anglophones.
That's right.
And I think I was not very wrong.
Right.
Not far from that. So I think we should learn to be humble. Paul was humble, and I think that's why God gave him so many years on earth, and that's why God gave him the possibility to raise up his children to be good, productive Cameroonians, and maybe to leave behind people like a senior council who is there to guide the young generation.
Because if we look at like senior council said, though I asked him that question, when we look at the current situation plaguing the northwest and southwest, keeping aside the crisis, we're looking at the land situation, the CDC situation, the developmental projects that were existing, especially we had Power Camp, we had WADA, we had CDC, which is now creeping and crawling, and very little is being said by our own elite in this locality. But I believe if Power was still strong and vibrant as he was, something he would have popped into the situation. But not very few persons are talking about CDC that's creeping and crawling.
You know, I think CDC, for the time being, is in the situation in which he finds himself more because of the Anglophone crisis.
Yeah.
Because before then, he had his own problem, but not as bad as it is today. And the Anglophone crisis, we know, they don't take it very serious. Maybe only the people suffer the daily effects, really talk about it often and try to look for solutions. So, like any other company in Cameroon, it's not only in the northwest and southwest that we see them failing.
But we expect the elite to stand up in this locality, because I think I was talking with the general manager of CDC, that was last 2020. There was that ability that CDC had a kind of financial problem prior to the crisis.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the elite you're referring to are CPDM militants, and they keep to their party discipline. So they cannot say anything.
Power was CPDM, no?
Yeah, but he stood up. he was just alone.
That's right.
Alone. How
Senator Mbela Mukitu, sometimes we see him
yes. At times
standing there.
Yes, but still, it's insufficient. The two of them cannot do anything.
You know, Javis, somebody I'm very close to, and who is also my very close friend, my elder brother, Dr. Nkamwah Ngongi, wrote an article recently that was published in the Horizon newspaper. He was calling Anglophone elites to order. One of the things he raised there, he quoted Machiavelli in chapter 23, where Machiavelli said, "Beware of flatterers." You see, most of these are so-called Anglophone elites are flatterers.
Yes.
That is our problem. They are more concerned about preserving their small positions wherever they are than becoming true leaders and servants of their people. In that article, and I will send a copy to you, I advise all of you to read it. It's not because it's my brother. He raises the issue and holds all of us elites responsible for the problems that are happening. Why are we not telling the head of state the real things? Why are we not letting him know? For all I know, President Biya is being misdirected by our own people, either by omission or by commission. Either they're telling him wrong things or they're not telling him what they should tell him.
I don't bother, the situation is under control.
That's right.
In a few years.
Okay, but the same people who are acting as if there's no problem, when they come to Buea, they come in armored cars with soldiers left and right guarding them. They are not even free amongst their own people. How long can we pretend about this? Recently, I was in one of these stations and I gave the story of the Emperor's New Clothes. I don't know if you've heard that story, written by Hans Andersen, the Danish story writer. The Emperor's New Clothes is a very simple illustration of this problem, where it was told that some tailors were going to make cloth in gold for the emperor, who loved many dresses. He loved dressing luxuriously. But the tailors gave a warning that the person in government who cannot see those clothes they are weaving will not be fit for his position in government. Of course, what did they do? As the emperor gave them the gold, they stashed the gold in their country and came and worked on an empty loom, weaving nothing. So when the emperor sent the prime minister to go and check, the prime minister came and saw nothing. He remembered that if he said he did not see nothing, it would mean that he's not worth his position. He went and said, "Oh, emperor, the clothes are very good." All the ministers, one by one, passed by there and told the emperor, "The clothes that are being woven are wonderful." Of course, they saw nothing. Now it came for the day the emperor had to put on this suit and this cloak. He went there in front of all his ministers, in front of the mirror. The tailors came with nothing. Mr. Emperor, sir, take off your clothes. He got naked. See, these are the trousers. Of course, the emperor stood there and saw nothing too. But he said, all my ministers say they have seen something. If I also say I've not seen nothing, it means I'm not fit for my position. So he went along and took nothing and put on nothing. Put on nothing as a shirt, put on nothing as a coat, put on nothing as a cloak. And of course, he had to walk on the highway now to the applause of his community to show them his new clothes. So he kept marching on the streets naked, and everybody was afraid to say the emperor is naked or they will kill him. But there was a little 4-year-old boy perching on the shoulder of the father. And when the emperor passed by him, he said, Papa, Papa, but the emperor is naked. Oh, the father almost pissed in his pants. So you kill me now. But the emperor heard. The emperor went a few steps ahead and came back. Oh, the father pissed on his pants. That I'm dead. But this is what happened. The emperor came back and said, who said it? The boy said, I said it. Emperor, you're naked. The small boy, he was not afraid. He said, Emperor, you're naked. The emperor stood there and said, you're talking the truth, my son. I am naked. He acknowledged, but he took a little 4-year-old boy who had nothing to lose, who was in his full innocence. No, he was not looking for position. He told the emperor the truth. And the emperor, who had a conscience, acknowledged that he was naked. You know what he did? He sacked all his ministers and then he resigned. I said, I too am not fit to be emperor because I lied to myself and to my population. Now, take that story and put it in Cameroon.
It's the same context we're witnessing in Cameroon.
That story was told to me when I was a child by my late mother. I was about 3 or 4 years older. I've never read it. I read it through my mother reading it to me. But if you Google Henderson, the Emperor's New Clothes, you'll see that story in its entirety. That story was written like a satire, but you laugh when you listen to it.
Yes.
But it speaks volume about what is happening, not only in our country, but in most of Africa.
Yes, I want to add something on what my colleague just said. I think the president himself is a problem. Because he should not only rely on what the ministers come to tell him.
That's right.
Pobia has been there for quite some time, and he knows the Anglophone problem.
Absolutely.
You see, and if you ask me my opinion about what you think about land grabbing or land issues in Southwest,
yes,
I will tell you you spoke some few days ago.
Yeah.
Why? Because I watched the television.
Right.
The president has that opportunity,
yes,
to watch the television
Absolutely.
and see exactly what is happening.
That's right.
So I think it's not only the problem of being misinformed, but I think it is a will, is his desire, is kind of, or is weak to change the situation. Because nobody in Cameroon, even a child who goes to primary school, will tell you that there is a problem in the Northwest and Southwest. That on the television they show that they killed some people. All of us we know. So I think
and he has diplomatic missions.
Yes, all the representatives, the governors are there. They give him direct information every day. The DOs are there. They give him the information. I just think it's to be honest with you, we have a president who has manifested a lot of bad faith.
But if counsel, if I may here, I agree with what you said, but I have a slight difference of opinion. Do you think that the DOs and the SDOs and governors and all these people who are stealing the land will tell President Biya the truth?
Well,
they will not.
That's true, though. The land issue is a bit different.
Yes.
Because
like
it concerns just private rights.
That's right.
Yes, it concerns private rights and amassing of property.
They will not tell the president.
But when it comes to it's a very serious problem like what we have in the Northwest and Southwest.
Yeah.
I think the president is fully informed.
He should be.
He's very, very informed. And
should be.
you see, it comes again to mind, Senior, that we had the Constitution of 1996,
yes,
which gave provisions for many things to be done,
which were not done.
Yes, and
today,
that was within his competence as a president,
yeah,
to do it, and he did nothing.
That's right.
And even those that even don't need his a degree,
yeah,
to a degree of application are still not done, like the section 66
on Declaration of Private Rights.
You see,
assets.
so to me, the president has a serious problem himself, and I just hope that one day we have a dynamic leader who can actually make us grow the way we are supposed to grow in Cameroon.
Because during the formation of the CPDM party in Bamenda, he talked about the ring road, and during the celebration of the military anniversary again in Bamenda, he talked about the ring road, and again nothing is being done, and Matism Road is not there.
Let me tell you,
and you come to the Southwest region.
The president said in 2019 that we must have the cup now, we must have the AFCON.
Comment sera après?
And the field, there's a stadium not far from his house.
He has never been there.
The Olympic Stadium, right?
Yes,
it's not yet ready. I heard it on radio yesterday.
Yes. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is closest to him he doesn't see? Is it that they have not informed him or he has not passed it to see? You know, we were told when we were growing up that Ahijo used to disguise, take taxis in the night, and move around to cities.
He did.
That's the role of the
He
president.
used to go around Mukete even to buy it, and he saw you there.
Yes.
He used to drive in a Renault 4.
Yes, that is the role of a president.
Yeah.
You should know your people and know exactly what they need.
Yeah.
Okay, let me take some few messages. Good afternoon. I greatly admire the way Barrister Ngongi is explaining his relationship and experience with Nfon V E Mukete. I followed his rebroadcast on Bakure land issue over Ekenox this morning, and he is a rare breed of Bakurean. I am grateful for his explicit from Ewane Eli, though you did not tell us where you're writing us from. Good afternoon to you. It's Zimo in Boya. I want to thank both barristers in the studio. I'm learning a lot as far as this program is concerned. It's not the usual heated debate noise that we always get. Thank you very much, barrister. Good afternoon to you all. I am Charlotte in Yaoundé. I must say it is quite a good program, and I want to ask Barrister Ngongi, are you sure that Nfon V E Mukete did not sell us because he was working closely with the regime? That's Charlotte from Yaoundé. Let me take on these other messages. Mr. Moderator, I have been wanting to get Barrister Ngongi's number. I beg to have his number. I am a son of his late friend, Chief Ekome, and I go by the name Emmanuel Tom Ekome. Thanks, I will be glad. I think we'll suspend the messages for now. Maybe you want to react to that?
Yes. First of all, I cannot speak to late Nfon Mukete's political activities. Like I said it before.
Yes, you did.
I cannot speak to them. And let me tell you, the period between when I worked with him and when he has died is 40 years. I was a very young lawyer then. 40 years. In 40 years, a lot of things can happen in a person's life. Some people do not even live up to 40 years and they die. So, Nfon Mukete's political ideologies might have evolved over the period since I worked with him so closely. Although I interacted with him, I met him in many occasions, but we never had to discuss his political leanings. So, Charlotte, I cannot tell you, I cannot deny or accept your pronouncement whether he sold us. But I can tell you one thing I knew from my interaction with him, that he was a man of dignity.
Okay. Briefly, before we leave this session, move to the next part of the program, maybe a last take from the Mukete.
I just want to say I will not react to that because he said it already. There's no reason coming back to what has been said, which is correct. I just want to thank the persons who wrote especially the one who said it's a very good program, and to let them know that when two intelligent and honest people meet to debate, there's no need for arguments.
That's true.
Yes, so we understand and we are honest with our views, so we don't have to argue over things which are not true.
I have so many messages, but please permit me, I will not read them all because of time constraint. We have a lot to talk about today. I will take on this brief transition. When we come back, we are going to look at the regional councillors. The regional councillors, where are they? They are yet to have their first ordinary session. Are they waiting for firm instruction from the head of state? This is House of Commons. Thanks for joining us. And here in the studio we have Barrister Ngongi. Barrister Ngongi, it's a privilege to have you once again.
Thank you, Javis, and thank you very much for this stimulating discussions we're having this morning.
And of course, we have Barrister Nkamwah Limen. Thanks for joining us again.
It's a pleasure.
These are the gentlemen with whom we are going to continue part 2 of this program. I'll begin with you, Senior Barrister, again. You were active during the municipal and legislative election. I covered you twice in Buya, fighting hard to see that justice is done and democracy is promoted. Equally, you were at the Constitutional Council when they were debating fallout from the elections, and again, you are an Anglophone elite and someone who is well grounded as far as the history of Cameroon and the legal implication is concerned, because I follow you closely at the Constitutional Council. There were issues you pointed out as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned.
Yes.
A lot of water has gone down the bridge. The Grand National Dialogue was called into question, and we now heard the word from decentralization rebranded now to accelerated decentralization.
Yes.
A lot of noise went round, and to date, regional council election we had the election, but nothing is being said about the house. I don't know, maybe they are waiting for firm instructions. You have knowledge about.
But you see, this is the continuing embarrassment that we face in Cameroon as citizens, where we are living the experience of the emperor's new clothes on a daily basis. People know that things are not going right, but they pretend that things are going wrong, and they begin to believe in their own lies. That's what is happening. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I talked with one of the regional commissioners. He says they cannot even function because they don't have one piece of furniture in the building they gave them, which next to the Boya Mountain Club there. Of course, let me remind you that, first of all, some people here, they wanted a private house to be rented in GRA for the regional council, so that some private individual to pocket money. A private house that is built illegally on government property should be rented by government, so the private individual makes money. Thank God, the council put their foot down and some other people, and that did not happen. Now they are giving them that property, that building that was occupied by the delegation of lands and so on. This is what the commissioner told me. They are trying to give somebody in Yaoundé a contract to come and furnish that building. Now, this regional council, if they are supposed to be independent, because they have delegated authority to them, why should they not manage their budget and furnish their own office? So one thing is very clear. This is all a farce. That's the simplest way I can put it. We should stop lying to ourselves. Now, tell me, how independent can this regional council be when you have an appointed governor bossing it over them? A governor whom we all know has no interest in the southwest or northwest region. We all know that. So how independent will this regional council be when they cannot do things on their own? They cannot even furnish their own office. Their own office. Somebody is going to give a contract to somebody in Yaoundé to come and furnish the office. The other day I was driving to Kotelimbe at Mutengere. I saw caterpillars painting the road. Of course, they will say they were tarring the road between the junction there to the bridge. But actually what they're doing, they're painting the road. That company did not come from Boya or Limbe or Mutengene or Tiko or anywhere. It's a company from the other side of the country. Now, is this the level of regional, decentralization that they're going to respect, where they give contracts now to people nobody knows to come and perform in an area? When we have children who have companies who should be taking these contracts and doing work in their own area and employ their own children within the area. But did not begin today. I remember when they were carrying out the so-called 50th anniversary of independence in Boya. The contract to renovate Mountain Hotel and Parliamentary Flats were given to non-northwest or non-southwesterners. The road between Boya and Mile 4 through Sase, the contract was given to people. They just painted the roads. But huge sums of monies exchange hands. What do we see today? Till today, we don't have water. They went and put in small support just by the Toleti estate a pumping station to pump water uphill into Boya. When we have springs up in upper farms where they could create a catchment for the water to come down by gravity, that pump has never functioned. Till today, we don't have water in Boya. I buy every 2 weeks, I buy water for 60,000 francs. 1,000 liters, 1 ton of water costs 6,000 francs. You get 10 of them to fill my 10,000 liters is 60,000 francs. Let me ask you, Javis, how many Cameroonians can afford to do that? Go out in the streets and see children at 4 a.m. lining up by the schloss, by the German schloss, waiting to carry water. 1 gallon.
Even in Moliko Malingo stretch.
Now tell me, how do our so-called leaders feel when they see this? Are they happy? To see children who should be spending their time preparing to go to school, lining up at 4 a.m. to carry 10 liters of water to go and wash their faces. I don't think they can even take a bath with that amount of water.
In 2021?
Yes, in 2021. Okay? What is happening to us? We want to blame the white man for this? Of course not. We are the people running our country, isn't it? And we cannot provide water for ourselves.
But they said the regional councillors were to look into some of these projects. They were to look into, especially the basic necessity, and they were voted by the people, and they have the mandate of the people.
Excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Which people voted them? This was a one-party election. I might remind you, right?
Yeah, very correct.
It was a one-party election. They appointed themselves. They chose the people they wanted to be in the councils. How many of us attended those elections? Was it not done amongst themselves? So let us be clear about this. If they wanted really to elect people to represent them, they should have made it an open election for everybody to go and vote people who had campaigned on a manifesto.
And Javis, let me really ask a question. This, it came to resolve what problem? Because the regional council, these are things that were created since 1996 in the Constitution.
That's right.
And that reflected the aspiration of the Cameroonians then, 25 years back.
That's right.
So when they are coming 25 years
It's
after,
later on.
it's late. Can you go to the hospital and they give you a prescription? You go and say 10, 20 years.
The barrister, the head of state said it's better late than never now when he came to Boya.
Do you know something? It is not the wish of the head of the state. The Constitution reflects the ethos of the people.
That's right.
It is not his matter, his affair. And it's because even when they decided that it would be decentralization, it was still wrong because as of then, majority Anglophones had moved on.
They wanted federalism.
And then you don't do that. If they did that, maybe it would have reduced the tension we have. And they come 25 years after people have manifested and dying to come and do this. What problem are they solving? It does not solve any problem. Look, I hate when we think that the president of the republic is above everything. He's not. The president is a constitution. This country is governed by a constitution.
Absolutely.
And that constitution 25 years ago, the question is, does it reflect our aspirations of today?
Absolutely not.
No. So we need a new constitution, and then we go back to federalism. That is the only thing you can do now to solve the Anglophone problems. Because that's the only thing.
And of course, you know that people have been talking about secession because they refuse the right to talk about federalism.
Yes.
That is how we got there.
Yes. So you don't come and tell me that the constitution the constitution of 25 years back reflects our aspirations today. It doesn't. And so the people went there as a regional council, whatever, they cannot resolve. First of all, what problem do they want to resolve? What solutions can they bring? They cannot bring any solution. So to me, it's even a waste of time to talk about them.
They have no power.
They have no power.
We know that. They have been put there by the regime. They have no power. And they know that. They cannot even buy furniture for their own offices.
So if I get what you're saying, before coming to senior barrister, it does mean that the body was just created to appease the international community during the period where they were clamoring for to see the effect of the major national dialogue, the outcome.
But look, baby, go ahead.
No, please go on. I'm just boiling here. It
is not the national dialogue that gave the authority for the creation of that. I think that thing is found in the constitution.
That's right.
Let's say facilitated.
Why should it come to facilitate when people are dying? That's the question. And still I ask, those were found in the constitution of 1995. Cameroonians have moved on. Javis, what size of pair of shoe were you wearing 25 years ago? Maybe size 32. Today you are maybe 42.
I was size 15, 20.
Good. So if they should give you that same size, are you going to wear it?
That's a very good point. Very good point.
So they are actually there. They don't have. They cannot bring us a solution to our problems.
Yeah.
That is the truth. And so we should move on and we should be honest. Look, if we want to change things in Cameroon, it's very easy. I've had this small experience that I've traveled. I've visited many countries, and most in Africa equally. And let me tell you, we have a lot of natural resources in this country.
Yes.
We have everything it takes for us to be a first class country.
Yes.
We have.
Absolutely.
The only thing we don't have is we have bad administrators. We have, starting from the presidency. That is the problem. Take somebody who can manage this country and do this country.
Like Pumbi, Magufuli.
Good. We have them even in Rwanda.
Kagame. It's another example.
He's doing well.
Oh, yes.
Take people like that and give them Cameroon. Right? Don't forget, if you give him, he will do it. You give me, I'll do it. We don't lack the people in this country to do it.
We lack the environment.
We lack the environment.
That allows people who can really do things to do things.
Yes, we have the
people can do things as stifled.
We have.
Senior Barrister, let's assume that the regional council, again on the basis of assumption, that it was created to solve problems. But months have come and passed. We have the issue of water in Buea. We have the issue of electricity in the entire region.
Yes.
We have the issue of inaccessible farm to market roads in Buea, and it is an agricultural center.
Yes.
And we have the issue of still the crisis plaguing. Is it not an emergency for the regional councillors to sit and say, okay, let's see what we can do? But no session has been held. No. Is it that they are no longer independent?
They have never been independent.
Have they existed, first of all?
That's right. In fact, they just exist now on paper. I don't know whether they're paying their allowances or their salaries even, because they've been there for more than 1 month now, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay? I don't know. To be candid, if you ask me that question, my answer is...
Like in the North, the first president of regional council...
Even died before he had an
office.
Okay.
Months after he was elected.
Yes. It's a very painful statement about the state of our country. It's a very sad and painful statement about what we are going through. And this country has human, natural, and all other resources to be better than this.
Yes.
Barrister Nkamwah just said it. Rwanda has no natural resource. Hills. They have transformed that place into a petty paradise. The same with Switzerland. I will not compare Rwanda in a way with Switzerland. Switzerland has no resources, but they have capitalized on their human resources. That is what is giving them what they are doing today. But in our country, we stifle human resources, we stifle innovation, we stifle people who have come with initiative. We want people to be given instructions from top to bottom to do things. Because once you are appointed to be a minister, you know everything. You all know all. You don't want anybody to give you advice. And of course, if you're not a civil servant, you cannot contribute to this government. Okay, we are not in government. We have no interest in our country. That is what is assumed. But let me tell you, who are the people fighting for the good of this country more? Is it not the people from civil society and private sector? Yes. Have you heard the people in government talking about what we're talking today? Or you mean they don't see these problems? I was with the minister at the Ministry of Lands the other day, and I told them that it is important for them to address this issue of land in Fako before it breaks out into a very serious conflict. A serious armed conflict.
Yes.
And the Secretary General whom I talked with looked at me and said, yes, vous avez raison, maître.
And if legs were not firm on the ground, the university land would have...
Oh, it should have gone. Yes. It was gone. Listen, the people who wanted to steal university lands are the people in government who should be protecting these lands. No, tell me. Tell me. How do you explain that? They wanted to sell this land to private individuals, and they said, and they said they will give University of Buea land somewhere. Which of these administrators came to Buea or to Fako with land that they are going to give to people? Did they come with land from their villages, which they are going to dish out? How ridiculous can we get in this our country? But it's about time that we, like you said in the beginning, we the so-called elites, woke up, who claim to represent the ordinary man and talk with one voice.
Yes.
I have talked about this thing alone for too long.
Yes.
I must give my gratefulness and my appreciation to my big sister, Professor Dora Tamnjong, who has joined me in this talk. But there are many more elites, in fact.
And thanks to the intervention and the fight that you put forward, the university land is now safe. And the agriculture department can move on. But nobody's talking about compensating the agricultural students who are doing their research on that land, whose product...
Well, the university will pursue their matter because the people who are behind that destruction will be sued.
Okay.
They'll be sued.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, they violated the law.
Yes.
They'll be sued.
Yes. Okay. Barrister, I don't know. Where do we go from here now? As far as regional council is concerned, should we just say, okay, the government should pay back the resources for the conveying of the regional, because we have used resources to create the council. Yeah. We have appointed members, transportation allowance, keep communication allowance, and if we have to go back to federation, what happens to the resources?
Mr. Javis, institutions are created to resolve a problem. Mm-hmm. If that institution cannot resolve that problem, it is useless. Yeah. And to me, it is useless. And the government knew before they even created whatever, the regional committee or whatever, that was not going to resolve a problem in Cameroon. Yeah. So to me, it is, they've embezzled a lot of money before now, more than what was used in the process of doing the elections or whatever. Yeah. We should just go back to the laws and maybe amend again the constitution to reflect the aspirations of the Anglophones now.
Nothing is difficult.
Nothing is difficult if they choose that, okay, we want to modify the constitution. When the president wanted to modify the constitution in his favor to have another mandate, was it not easy? It is easy. So let us go back there, modify the constitution and say, okay, let us come back to the provisions of 1972 constitution and make it a federal. That is it.
But when we look at the issue of federation, maybe they are struggling to protect the state from what is happening in Kenya. In Ethiopia, where we have the Tigray region, the Tigray region where they had federation, and at the point in time they declared themselves independent.
We have this tendency of comparing with bad situations. Why not take America? Why not take Nigeria and see how developed Nigeria has become because of the federation? Yeah.
Because the rebels of the Tigray region, the government is saying that a similar situation could happen.
When the two Cameroons came together, it was a federation.
It was a federation.
It was a federation
from 1961 to 1972.
There was no problem before they changed it to La République. There was no problem, except for the fact that the administrators, the French administrators, wanted to absorb the English Cameroon. Yeah. So I don't think we had any major problem that pushed us to where we are today.
What Butler says is bad faith.
It's bad faith.
It's bad faith. You know, I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking, you know, one of the resolutions that were made, I think after the, in quotes, grand dialogue, I call it grand monologue, was to do some reforms and create a common law bench in the Supreme Court, right? Yes. Does it exist yet? No. Is it functioning? That's not a political thing.
Yeah, the government says that it's functioning. And
it's not a political thing.
Of course.
Okay? Now, having a common law bench in the Supreme Court is one concrete way we can show that we have a civil law system and a common law system in this country. So, when you appeal cases from the Court of First Instance to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, is it a francophone judge who is trained in civil law who will read your brief? Of course not. Of course not.
Yep.
Okay? This is not a political problem. Why are they wasting time to get it implemented and put in place? Why? Ask those questions. And we should ask our leaders those questions. They are not embarrassing questions. They are simple, honest questions which can be resolved by simple, honest gestures.
Okay. Before moving to part 3 of the program, now I want to get this. I'm kind of confused from the regional council perspective based on what you have said. Yeah. It's like the council is nothing and it's not worth talking about. And where do we go from here? If we were to make it work, let's assume we were to make it work.
If I just may interject there, when this regional council thing was said, with the accelerated decentralization, what did that express to you? A sense of urgency, isn't it? Do you sense that urgency now? Do you sense that urgency now? 3-4 months after?
Maybe it's packaging.
Oh my days. For how long shall we deceive ourselves and start believing our own lies? For how long?
Okay, senior barrister, let's assume that, let's just take the status as it is, and if we were to work on it, what should we do to make it work?
First of all, elect governors. Remove this appointed neo-colonialists who have come to our area to dominate us and act as if they are superior to us. Remove them.
Yes.
Elect our governors. Let people campaign and give their manifesto. Let the population choose their leaders. First thing.
Yes.
Once you do that, you have established the good faith that you really want these people to govern themselves. Are you telling me that Southern Cameroon, Southwest region and Northwest region, which have populations bigger than the population of Lesotho, Gambia, all these small countries cannot govern themselves as regions with their own governors? With all the learned people we have in our regions? Bottom line is there's bad faith.
Yes.
These people do not want to relinquish power to the population who deserve to manage it. As simple as that.
Okay, Senior Barrister says we should elect the governors, and you witnessed the installation of these regional House of Assembly. They were done by appointed governors, and so if we were to make this work, what do we need to do to make it?
He just told you, and it's the same line that my line of thinking. It's the same line of thinking. You understand? As I said, when two honest people meet, right? They don't. They look at. Yes, we don't. That is the truth. If we have to manage, the decentralization, let us elect our governors.
It begins there.
It begins there.
And let us remove all these prefets and sub-prefets,
yes.
SDUs, and who come here to act as if they are our new bosses.
That's why they call them chef de terre.
Okay, let's remove them. Let us have administrators who come from the area. The administrator in Bamenda should come from Bamenda.
Yes.
Administrator in Boya should come from Boya.
And should be elected.
How much guarantee is the state going to have that these people may not want to declare an autonomy as it happened in the Tiga region?
Let me ask you a question. Why would any state be afraid of people declaring autonomy?
Because they know something is wrong.
That's right. If everything was right, why would anybody want to declare autonomy? Let me tell you, Javis, do you think that if we all were being treated well as Anglophones, we would even want to talk about separating our country? If we're treated well, we would want that we continue as united country, isn't it? It's because we are being treated shabbily. We are being discriminated against and treated in our own homes like second-class citizens.
And Javis, just to add more to what my colleague just said, look, if you go around, majority Anglophones don't want to secede. Majority will stand for federalism.
Yeah, like it was in the beginning.
Yes, majority will stand.
Just that the issue of federation was a taboo.
So why would they be afraid that we're going to secede? We're not going to secede. Listen, majority of Anglophones.
If you are treating your workers well in the office,
you'll
not be worried about them wanting to leave.
No, that's true.
It's as simple as that. When you treat people decently, they will support you. Yes. They will make you grow. Look at companies that prosper. There are companies that pay attention to their employees.
Yes.
Countries that prosper are countries that pay attention to their citizens.
Okay. I am G. Simon in Edina. Please, may God bless those two barristers in the studio. They are talking what is meant to be spoken. Please, I don't understand that. This one say, good afternoon to you all in the studio. The regional councillor is just a window dressing, and it is the last card that Mr. Bia is trying to play to Cameroonians. Johnson in Limbe. This other one, it says, Mr. Asong from Yaoundé, good day to you, Javis. Please let Senior Barrister frequently speak the truth as he is doing now. Thank you very much. Greetings to the panel on board. I love the contribution and sense of humor towards the outstanding legacy of Mukete and the issues of Anglophone. Awuru Romarik from United Arab Emirates. Good afternoon to you. I think Nfon V E Mukete did not do enough to the southwest and northwesterners, especially he worked more for those in Kumba. It's coming from Job from Kumba. Job, thank you very much. And because of time, we're not with all your messages. I think we'll take on this last transition. When we come back, we'll move to the last part of our debate, which is it not time for us to bury our differences and focus on reconciliation and what unites us more than what divides us, without keeping the truth aside? The truth is God. You can only kill the teller and not the truth. When you kill the teller, the truth remains to haunt you. You're welcome back. It is often said, to every child the mother is the best cook, and regardless of where the compound is, the mother is the best cook. That's why a child will tell you in pidgin, "Mama me the cook guys and beans and no go get her own." And in the context of the Anglophone crisis, people tend to support where they think is best for them, but there are some few people who believe the general interest must come first. And that is why we have to look at the second part in the studio with our panel. And start with you. Is it not time for us to bury our differences as far as the Anglophone conflict is concerned, especially when we look at the fact that the finger pointing, like Senior Barrister, when he speaks, people say no. Those who are in support of a clique would say no, he's a separatist, he's this, he's that, he's that. But when he stands to fight for the truth,
you know, to be honest with you, each time we talk about the Anglophone crisis, I talk with a lot of emotion, because you see, we are Anglophones and we live the realities. You see, if the difference you're talking about, bearing the difference between the Northwest and Southwest, I will draw your attention to the fact that that's not what started the Anglophone crisis. The Anglophone crisis started because the Anglophone as a bloc felt they were being marginalized by the Francophones. Yeah. And so, what constitutes that difference, therefore, should be what the Anglophones expect from the government, which was not coming. It is true that underneath that problem, we have our own differences, which is very important that we, as a people, we should grow beyond that and know that there is no difference between an Anglophone from the Southwest and Anglophone from the Northwest. We are all the same people. We belong to the same community, and we have everything. We suffer and cry together. So, but coming now to our Anglophone, the difference we have, which is that from the marginalization from the government, we think that we have made some mistakes by targeting our own brothers and sisters living in the Northwest and Southwest. Because if you ask me, honestly, I will tell you that the people paying the huge price of this war is us. Because we find that our own people are being kidnapped, our own people are being killed, whereas we are not the ones responsible for the solutions. So I am praying that all those who think that by kidnapping, by killing or torturing another Anglophone gives them any right or makes them happy, it is wrong. It is very wrong. Our problem is that with the government and not amongst us Anglophones. And you see, Javis, there is something which is not correct. We as Anglophones, we should learn to accept our different views, opinion on things without painting others as a black leg. Yeah. An Anglophone might want secession. Another Anglophone is feels that federalism is better. It does not mean that he who wants secession must kill the Anglophone who is going in for federalism. So please, I just want to make a strong call to all those Anglophones. I don't want to call them Ambazonian or separatists because they remain Anglophones. That we should know that when you pick up arms, you don't pick it against the very people who you are supposed to protect.
Because people seem now to fight more for position than the interest. Yeah. Because if you look at the bottom line between someone who wants federation and separation, is like the interest is for common man to have democracy, freedom of speech, autonomy.
Look, we have a common problem as Anglophones. The Ambazonians don't feel that pinch more than I do. No. Or I don't feel it more than they do. All of us will feel it as Anglophones. What I'm saying is that it is wrong that Anglophones should target Anglophones. It is wrong. And let me tell you, let me be very honest with you. In all form, we have been the victims. Our houses have been burned, villages destroyed, families separated. Indeed, do you know if you go to Bonaberry late in the evenings, you can really cry with what you see? You know, let me tell you something that I have a very wealthy client who wanted to remove somebody from a house. He had a deal with his in-law and he wants to evict. The in-law is not in the country. He wants to remove those children and get possession of the property before the man comes. You know, he came and told me, I want you to bring an action and just say that the people living in that house are Ambazonians. Oh. Do you understand? Oh, no. Do you understand? Me, an Anglophone, take millions to remove another Anglophone from a house. On a lie. Yes, that is an Ambazonian. Yeah. Do you know what I told him? I said, I'm not going to do this. And believe me that if you bring an action against an Anglophone on that, I'll be the one to denounce you. Yes. I did not end there.
Very few people can take.
I did not end there. I wrote to the wife. And said, look, I'm the lawyer for your family. And your husband made me with this. I want to tell you this. If he should do it, I am going to run him down. And she replied me and said, mate, I'm thankful that people like you are there to tell me.
Yes, that's so touching. Very few.
Do you understand?
That's really touching.
Look, you come in my neighborhood. I'm here in Lokpom. You see, there are times that when I have the opportunity maybe to go and sit somewhere and maybe drink something, and make sure that in going I identify the Anglophones who are there and just say, give them something. You understand? Because it is a very, very sad thing, the experience. You live the trauma in Southwest, we have the spill out over here. You see what these children, they go through, you will not imagine. Why are we forced by our own brothers to leave the Northwest, and why should we do that? So please, I am making this call, big call, from my heart to the Ambazonians. We are all Anglophones. We have a fight, not between us Anglophones, but against the people that we want, who are sitting on our rights, against the system. And I beg you with everything that I hold sacred, that stop killing your brother Anglophone. Absolutely. Stop destroying the properties of Anglophones. Stop. Indeed, we should have peace and focus on our solution. If we all came, and that is what another thing I regret so much is, they did not give Cardinal to me. They didn't give him the opportunity to have the All Anglophone Conference. And I said, it would have given us the platform to choose our leaders to represent us and identify our problems and table them. So I've made this appeal honestly to every Anglophone of good faith, that we should stop at one point and think. We should stop this killing, and honestly, we should be peaceful. Thank you.
I think our technical team will have that a session and put it on equally for further. This is a good call. Senior Barrister, isn't it time for us to bury our differences, because people have been tagged name. If you stand for the truth, you speak something, they'll say, no, you're a separatist. You say this, no, you are a government black leg. People are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea.
See, when I was making my case at the Constitutional Council, I raised this particular issue. We are caught between, as you say, the devil and the deep blue sea. Either way you go, you can't win. In the beginning of this crisis, I used to go to Bamenda to do cases at the High Court there. On one occasion, my car broke down. I needed the parts. It was a Monday. All the town was locked down. So I went to a friend of mine, may soul rest in peace, he's dead now, who knows the town. And he found a shop owner who went to his shop behind clandestinely, got the part, and came and fixed my car. And that's how I was able to drive back. While they were walking on my car, I sat there with my friends to take a drink, and I told them this. I said, you know, what we are doing with these ghost towns and all this thing is like somebody who takes a cup of beer, fills it with poison. He's very angry at somebody who is in Marwa, and he drinks it, hoping that the person in Marwa will die. When I drive to Douala, you not know that there's any conflict in this country.
Yes.
When I go to Yaoundé, people in Yaoundé are oblivious of the fact that people are dying in North and Southwest region. The ordinary man doesn't know that. So we are drinking the poison, hoping that the people in Yaoundé will die, but where are the people dying? Why are we not giving the poison to the people who need to die? Okay? Now, you just heard Barrister Nkamwah talk. Have you heard of any administrator kidnapped or any government official kidnapped? But they are kidnapping their own brothers.
On a daily basis. In Bafut, 2 people were kidnapped, went for a funeral in Bafut. That was yesterday.
Okay? But this is a sad and painful reality
and myself and I only escaped one in Moya.
Yeah. Why should we be doing this to ourselves? We have a good cause.
Yes.
And I said this in the beginning, and I must point my fingers to our brothers who, in a hurry, started this conflict because we did not prepare enough. We did not do what Cardinal Tumi wanted us to do, to sit down amongst ourselves and deliberate and strategize before we stood up to fight. We're too much in a hurry to go out and fight. Some of them wanted positions, like you said, hoping that they'll be appointed ministers if they saw that they were ahead, and so on. Some of them have been bought over. They're getting money from the regime and pretending that they're fighting for it. We know that. And so long as we are divided, there's no way. This thing will go on for the next 50 years.
Yes.
I was driving just now, and I saw, after the police checkpoint at Miselele, a big area of land that has been cut down. They told me they have cut down that place to build a DDR center, a center for the demobilization. So I asked myself, does it mean that the government doesn't intend to stop this war soon? They want a permanent site to keep these people for the next 20 years?
But it means that those are elements that the war is not anytime soon.
Oh yes! We cannot be blind to these realities. Instead of making things so that this war stops, we are creating institutions to manage the war. How can you explain this? How can you explain this? And let me tell you what is going to happen soon. And I hope it doesn't happen. In a few months' time or years' time, if this is not stopped, that land that has been put there overtly to be a DDR center will be cut out into plots and sold amongst themselves.
Yes.
The Prime Minister came to Boya last year, and he went to Bostad Institute. At that time, a big plot, a stretch of land that was open for Bostad Institute, and he recommended that that place should be built up to make accommodation for some of these people so they can have better facilities. As soon as the Prime Minister left, I went back to Yaoundé. The SDO issued an allocation letter of site plans and gave his agents allocation letter signed and stamped by him, but with no name.
Yeah.
He gave his agents to go around and sell plots in that area. Go there now. Houses are just cropping up around the place in a disorderly manner. And so where would the Prime Minister's project come up? I would like them to come and see what is happening in Fako. And that's what I intend to tell the president of CONAC himself. That if they want to carry these investigations, instead of inviting people to Yaoundé, let them come down and see with their own eyes. Yes. They give you a paper, you go and look. Yes. How did you get later? Allocation later. Who gave permission for allocation later? The question starts.
Okay.
Okay? This is how you do it. So we are really, sorry Javis, if you look at it, we're in a situation where people who are working for the government are sabotaging the government. These same agents of the government are the ones sabotaging the government. They are sabotaging Paul Biya. Sure, you cannot say the Paul Biya is without blame. As the head of the country, he has this, the buck has to stop with him. But the people are actively sabotaging Paul Biya. This is agents who come in forms of DOs and SDOs and whatever. They are sabotaging the president. And we cannot continue to have this go on.
Okay. Greetings to you all in the studio. Thank you, barristers, for speaking the truth. Bearing our differences, moving forward as Cameroonians is a nightmare for French and its head boys who passes for leaders. Cameroonians need to rise up and as one to cast out these neo-colonialists in order to truly ascertain their independence. Window dressing dates as far back as the eve of Windows dressing of independence. It has been modus operandi for French for so long. Adulu Lamnui from Banyu. Please, we will not read all of your messages because of time constraint. Happy Sunday to you all in the studio. May God bless the barristers in the studio. I can discern how honest they are. We need people like you to build a beautiful Cameroon. The government of Cameroon should come down from their high horses and make use of people like the barristers to fix the problems in Cameroon. My heart bleeds for Cameroon. I am Paul Abang from Yaoundé. Sorry, we are just handpicking messages because of time constraint. Good day to you all. And Limo in Bamenda, what the barrister said was good, and we need to stop the killing. We need to stop killing each other and come back to one as Anglophones. Good afternoon to you all. It's Toge from Boya. I am touched with the words of the barrister. I barely would believe person with words of his still exist. Hope the best in God's care will move forward. Grace to the word of the barrister for saving the Anglophone in Douala. Please check. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Because of time, we may not read all the SMS. We are slowly out of time. Senior barrister, before we take leave of you, basically your last word and way forward as far as reconciling Anglophone communities concerned. Maybe you have that special message to the public.
Yes, Javis.
And an appeal too.
I will not be tired of talking about this. When you sit down and critically analyze the problems that surrounds this Anglophone crisis, while you have the right to be angry at the regime that is treating us shabbily, you cannot help but be angrier with our own so-called elites who are fueling this crisis by their silence, that's their omission, or by their actions. We need to take that responsibility before we point our fingers out there. And I'll call on all of us, wherever they are, whatever position they occupy, to know that in the long run, we are going to be leaving our children, our grandchildren, with problems that we should have solved if we don't solve them today.
Thank you very much, Senior Barrister. Barrister Nkamwah Limen, before we take leave of you, your last word?
Yes, I just want to thank you for giving us the platform to talk and giving me the opportunity to talk with my senior, whom I respect a lot, and I follow your interventions. And honestly, I'm always happy with your degree of honesty. And in life, I try to be honest, and I just pray that we Anglophones will come to the end of these problems sooner than those people think we will. God bless us.
Thank you very much. A lot of messages coming in. Good afternoon, Javis. Please, can we have the barristers next week? No. It's not time. To all those of you who watch this program comes on every Sunday at exactly 12 to 1:30 p.m. Rebroadcast is Sunday at 10:30 p.m. and rebroadcast again on Monday at 9:30 p.m. It is on our YouTube channel, BT Media, and on our Facebook page, My Media Prime. You can visit us on www.btmediagroup.net, www.btmediagroup.net. If you want to participate in the program, the numbers are on your screen. You can contact me and be a guest in our program, and we'll give you the topic as long as you take responsibility for the word you use. I leave you with this: no matter the matter, what matter is your matter. No matter the matter, what matter is your matter. And what should matter for you is that stand together for what you believe, work for what must be done, and love each other in all that you do. And to all my people are one. Spread the peace, my brothers and sisters, for we are all one. God bless you, and bye-bye from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Fengu John Bange.